I mean, I'm following in my parents' footsteps. They went to Disney World on their honeymoon, but I never got to go until I was an adult.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so I'm just inflicting that same emotional damage upon my kids. Just kidding, Mom and Dad, if you're listening. I'm fine. I'm not bitter about it at all. Really, seriously, I'm not. You're listening to Dadsplaining, a weekly chronicle of all the weirdest, messiest, grossest, and funniest parts of fatherhood, hosted by two first-time dads. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And this week, we are going to be talking about traveling without the kids, taking a trip and leaving the children behind, all of the joys and anxieties that go along with all of that. But before we get into all of that, Brandon, if our listeners want to reach out to us, where can they find us?
Please give us a like, a follow, and if you can, a rating or a review on all of our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. If you want to reach out to us directly, you can email us at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com, and then you can get this and every episode every week anywhere you get your podcasts.
That's right, and while you're at it, jump on Facebook and search for Dadsplaining, a fatherhood group. We have a small but quickly growing group of dads there who are sharing pictures of their kids, photos, milestones, questions, tips, that kind of fun stuff. We would love to have you as a part of that conversation, so go on and send a join request there. So, Brandon, how are things going with Noah this week?
Yeah, things have been going pretty well. We've been just kind of settling back into the rhythm. You know, we did a good bit of travel, as we're going to talk about on today's episode, so really just getting back to the basics. And if you listen to the recent episodes, we've been going through the teething craze of getting those molars in. At this point, we are seeing significant progress on the tooth and molar front. I think we've got something like 3 or 4 now in there. And I learned a lot about molars as this is going on, because, you know, you just want some explanation for why you feel like you want to throw something when your kid is screaming nonstop throughout the night. And there's actually 2 sets of molars on each side and on, you know, top and bottom. So you're dealing with 4 top, 4 bottom. So you got 2 top left, 2 top right, 2 bottom left, 2 bottom right. Didn't know that. I didn't know there were, 8 molars. You get your first molar and your second molar. And I'm not kidding. They're literally called the first and second molar.
Never really realized that.
Right. And the difference between the two, guess what? It's just because which one comes in first is the first molar.
Okay, so it's different for everyone.
Well, I was just saying, like, the one that's closer or further. God, now I feel like I had it nailed. But they're right next to each other in the corners, right? And so one will come in first and the other will come in second. And it's always the same one of the pair, but it's just because the one that's further or closer back is always the one that comes in first. Therefore, it's called the first molar.
I see.
And the one that comes in second is therefore called the second molar.
Interesting.
What a brilliant naming convention.
Yeah.
You know, we're not doing anything with the craziness like a canine, whatever, it doesn't have a fancy name, just first and second molar.
Interesting.
So, these are the things you think about when you're up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Just kind of, wondering how you got into this point in life, the decisions you made, or single decision, if we're being realistic, that put you into this position. So the good news is that we're sleeping again.
Oh, great.
And we've moved past what I would say is probably the worst part, because we can see those molars now. They've broken through. And, now there's a little bit of, kind of grumbling in the night, but usually doesn't actually involve him waking up for more than a few seconds, just because it seems like the worst is done. And it's just kind of a little bit of, soreness now, and we've kind of moved past it. So,
nice.
Fingers crossed. I'm knocking on wood, not too loudly to get the microphone to pick it up. But, we've been sleeping again normally for like the last, several days. So we are feeling A+ again.
Wonderful.
That's
awesome.
How's it been going for you guys?
It's been going pretty good. David is in the midst of potty training. I mentioned that in our last episode. And he's actually taking to it surprisingly quickly.
Nice.
He's figured out that if we set him down on his little kid potty and put the Very Hungry Caterpillar in his lap and let him read it, eventually he will do a little number 1.
There you go.
And we'll clap, we'll cheer, he'll stand up, he'll turn around and look at it, and then he'll hit the toy flusher on the toy toilet.
Yep.
And then he'll walk over and hit the big boy flusher on the actual toilet.
Nice.
So one hard lesson that I learned pretty quickly was that once he does his number 1 business, to get him right back on that toilet, because he's not done. He thinks he's done, but he's not done. I learned that the hard way, because he stood up. I went to go empty out the little bin, whatever you call it, the bowl.
Yeah.
And as I do that, he just unloads again.
Oh,
and
no.
gets the floor nice and wet, and then
Perfect.
starts kind of tapping his feet in it.
Of
kind of like
course.
how kids play in
Doesn't
puddles.
matter to him, yeah.
Yeah, it's all water to him.
Oh, God.
So had to clean up the floor, and that happened the night prior to that. I picked out the bowl again to dump it, and then moved it over to the sink because my wife was gonna wipe it down with some cleaning wipes. And as I do that, he sits back down on the toy toilet. Now there's no bowl in it, so now there's just the hole and the floor.
Yeah.
And has another successful potty trip, but this time it
Okay.
goes straight down to the floor. And I don't
Perfect.
want to freak him out. I don't want to lift him up and go no.
Yeah.
Because all he knows is I'm going potty.
Right.
So I don't want him to think, oh, I'm not supposed to go potty.
Right. He did the correct thing.
Yeah, exactly.
technically.
It's not his fault. So, we've had a few mishaps along the way, and it's going to continue to be that way. But I'm really excited about this because it's the huge milestone, and I know it takes a while to get past it, and then we're going to move over to the training pull-ups, and then the big boy underwear, and then from there it's like a lot of cleaning the sheets when they have accidents, and a lot of surprises and adventures ahead, but it's an exciting point in our lives right now. So on to this week's topic. Brandon, we picked this subject because you recently came back, you and your wife, Austin, from a trip to Boston. Austin and Boston.
Austin and Boston, that's right.
And I know that you left Noah with the grandparents for that trip.
Yep.
So I want to hear a little bit about it, and then I'll chime in with, I've taken a couple of trips, just me and my wife, Ashley. And it is a vastly different experience than traveling with a kid. Nothing before having children can prepare you for traveling with children. It is a very, very unique sort of situation. So how did things go in Boston?
Yeah, things were great. Couldn't have been better. And part of the reason why this felt like such a good thing to talk about is that we actually took back-to-back trips.
Yeah.
One with and one without our son. So we got a really good feel of the differences between the two and the comparison. So, I just want to start by highlighting that my big thesis here is that everyone should take a trip without their kids. If you can swing it in some way, shape, or form, you should do it.
Yeah.
Even if it's only for a couple of days at a time. We only took a 3-day trip. So it was like 2 days of being there plus 1 day basically of traveling back and forth. And that was still wonderful and amazing. You don't have to be gone for a week or 2 weeks. You can get in, these little trips and still have a really good time with it. But we had to go to a family function for a wedding, and so we were, all going with family, so we were going to bring our kid just because we'd have some extra support and things, as we've kind of talked about. Like, Jesse, you guys went on a cruise with family. It's a lot easier to do a trip with a kid if you're going to have some extra support.
Exactly, a backup team.
Exactly, and so that was good, obviously. It was still very challenging, but then, to kind of take a break from that, it had been a long time since we'd taken a trip ourselves, and my whole goal was like, I want to take a trip and and just make sure that I actually get to enjoy the trip.
Oh yeah.
And actually just feel like I got joy and fun and relaxation somewhat out of it. And we spent a lot of time kind of going back and forth on like whether we would take Noah on this trip, because in our minds, we don't travel a ton, but we traveled some. We take like a trip a year or two or whatever it is before we had our son. And we always kind of thought, we want to have him be with us. We want him to experience things. We want him to go places and get exposed to different things and travel with us. But then as you have the kid, you become very aware of your limitations, how much is involved, how much you depend on the routine.
Yep.
You heard me talking about in the lead up here today about, sleep and how quickly you can snap if you don't have it.
Oh yeah.
The same kind of thing, throughout the day. If you're traveling, you're just guaranteed to not be on schedule. So, it took us a long time, and we had to go through that process of thinking like, well, are we good parents if we, want to like just leave our kid behind and like ignore him, for lack of a better word? Like, is it okay for us to do that?
You feel the guilt.
Right. You feel the guilt and then you miss them and things like that. And so for a long time, we were just kind of thinking like, well, we'd try to take him with us on trips, even if it was fun ones with just us, just to do it. And we finally just kind of got to the point of really coming back to that thought of we want to be able to feel like we enjoyed the trip and had a good time and don't come back exhausted and worse for wear. And by taking a trip with a kid, you quickly find out that if they're with you, no matter where you are, it's going to be exhausting.
Yeah.
It's going to be tiring. You're not probably going to get the same kind of, or even nearly the same kind of like enjoyment and happiness out of the trip.
Yeah.
Which isn't the kid's fault. It's just what it is, right?
Yeah, well,
if we're talking young kids, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we've said this in previous episodes. Traveling with a kid, once you have children, you cease to have vacation. You still have a great time. It just your vacation becomes about something else. It's no longer about relaxing and chilling and sleeping in and doing whatever you want and staying up late and having a couple of drinks. It's now about making memories with the kid, you know? So it serves a totally different function. It's still fulfilling in its own way. But now that we're adults, we kind of realize, we look back at when we were kids and we traveled with our parents and they were always really cranky, waking up early to go on the trip. And we were like, why are you mad? We're going on a magical vacation. It's because they're tired. Yeah. And they know that they're going to have to do everything that they do at home. They're just going to have to do it in a smaller room with slightly better scenery.
Yeah, and with less of your stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
So these are the kinds of differences that I'm seeing as I've done this, right? Traveling with kid. Holy crap. So much stuff.
Yes.
Everything. You got to have the car seat. You got to have the stroller. You got to have the diaper bag. You got to have all kinds of extra changes of clothes for the kid.
Yep,
By the way, we didn't bring enough changes of clothes the first time around. We just brought the number of clothes we would need for the number of days we would need.
Oh, no.
We did not account for the fact that anything could possibly happen. So that was a total fail.
Ouch.
And then you got to have your stuff, of course. So just imagine going through like the airport or whatever it is, and you got suitcase times 2, you got diaper bag, you got purse, you got backpack with car seats, you got baby, you got stroller, you got another something. Like all that is just an insane amount of stuff.
It is.
That you have to try to get through. And if you're doing the airport, you don't really have too many great options for how you can carry that around.
Not really.
So there's kind of a maximum that you can produce and bring with you. And notice I didn't mention toys or any kind of like special, specific, unique stuff that you might want to bring. Yeah,
you wind up with like double backpacks on you, like one behind and one on front. And then you got the stroller as well. And then your wife's with the luggage. And it's a mess. Like you quickly become that very conspicuous family in the airport that just seems to have all of their belongings that they've ever possessed with them.
Yeah.
That's what traveling with a kid is like.
And yet somehow none of the things you actually need.
Yeah.
And or wish you had when you get there. So it's just very difficult to pull that off. It's going to be very challenging. Flip side, when we were traveling without our son, and this was just a week apart, we were same airport, we were doing everything, and we did the same exact stuff, just with and without, we had one suitcase.
Oh, my God.
And that was it.
Wow.
I didn't have a backpack. I didn't have a diaper bag. I didn't have a stroller. I didn't have a car seat. I don't need one for myself anymore. And so we were just, it was a breeze. I just kept thinking, like, I should have more stuff.
Yeah, you almost feel naked.
Yeah,
like,
it did. Because I was like, I don't have anything on my back.
Yeah.
I don't have anything over my shoulder. I don't have passies in my pockets.
Yeah.
Like, it felt weird to have to take those out and be like, oh, I don't need these passies. I mean, maybe I'll feel a little bit of stress.
Maybe one just for safety.
Just one just for me, just so I can make sure I've got it. But yeah. And it was just like, it's night and day between the two. So, I mean, just huge differences in just the amount of stuff, and that just adds to the stress. And then when you get there, obviously, then you have to deal with it. Like if you didn't bring something, or if you have less of something, then you just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Versus when you're with yourself, you don't need a thing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And same with like the stroller or just getting around. When you're traveling with a kid, you have to prepare for your day. You have to know what you're going to do. You have to know when you're going to need things, and you're going to have to bring it ahead of time.
Because you don't want to have to go all the way back to the hotel room with the kid, or leave one parent with the kid where you are, and then the other one rushes back to the hotel, and then meanwhile the other parent is just solo with the kid. It's, Yeah,
exactly. Like what I would be doing in the morning before leaving for, a day out with a kid is I have to think about the snacks I'm going to bring, the sippy cup and the water and the milk. I have to think about different types of snacks. I have to think about a lunch if I'm going to be bringing that, just to make sure. But when you're with yourself, you can stop whenever you want to.
Yeah.
You can grab a drink. You can grab some food. You can stop in at a bar or any type of restaurant of any kind. You don't have to worry about if it's family friendly or kids or
Do
whatever.
They have high chairs?
Yeah. But when you're with your kid, you could technically stop and just get stuff if you wanted to, but like, where are you going to go? Where are you going to post up? You can't just, if you sit somewhere for an hour in a restaurant by yourself, that can be fantastic and relaxing. Doing it with a kid is not going to be fantastic and relaxing. It's going to be harder.
And is the restaurant big enough to bring you, your kid, all the kids' stuff in
the
there?
12 things that you need. Yeah. And I mean, my son doesn't particularly love just being in the high chair and sitting for an extended period of time. Like, he'll do it as long as he's eating.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's kind of like, well, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
I got to get out of here. So it's just a totally different vibe, doing the traveling part and then moving around when you're somewhere. So a lot of, big difference. And it's just like, think about all I'm talking about and like the relief you're going to feel doing it the other way without a kid.
Yeah.
And it was just a great way to be able to kind of enjoy and not have to think about all that extra stuff and not have to bring it all around. And it's just nice to kind of rediscover what it's like existing as your own, person or couple, and just you don't need a whole lot of stuff, and you can take care of yourself, and you can just kind of be out there and do things on a whim, and you don't have to have a big old plan, and you can stop and start whenever you feel like it. You can take as many breaks as you want.
Yeah.
And it's just an easier way to kind of move around, and it's just totally different. I mean, I'm describing taking a trip without a kid as if it's like a crazy thing. We all traveled before we had kids, or if you don't have kids, you just travel and you don't think about it as being with or without a kid.
Yeah.
But I mean, once you've done it with kids, it's like a magical experience all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know what you're missing, right? Until you have the family to travel with. I know that after we had David, the first couple of trips that we took were without him. I had work trips, and we were going to the most magical place on earth, Disney World.
Right.
But David
and without a kid, which is hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah, he was too young to go. I mean, I'm following in my parents' footsteps. They went to Disney World on their honeymoon, but I never got to go until I was an adult.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So I'm just inflicting that same emotional damage upon my kids. Just kidding, Mom and Dad, if you're listening. I'm fine. I'm not bitter about it at all. Really, seriously, I'm not. But seriously. So yeah, the first couple of trips that we took were without David. And then once we finally did take our first trip with David, it was, you know what, I take that back. The first trip that we took was a road trip with David. I got it confused because we took a plane trip with him, and that was incredibly difficult. But before that, last summer, we took a road trip with David down to Florida. Right. And yeah, you do quickly learn that there's a lot that you have to kind of figure out. And then once you travel without the kid, which we did, going to Disney World, it was just amazing, just night and day. It was like you develop sort of a newfound appreciation for travel, and all the things that used to bug you about travel don't bug you quite as much because they seem somewhat easier when compared to traveling with the kid. You know?
Speaking of, one thing that happened to us is when we went on the trip to Boston, our flight got delayed multiple times.
Yeah.
And like we just ended up getting on standby for like an earlier flight. It was a later flight, a different flight to Boston, and we finally got out of there like 2 or 3 hours after our initial time. But like, imagine doing that with a kid.
Yeah,
like you don't think about your flight being delayed, you don't account for it. But imagine having to go through that. We were delayed multiple times. It was really annoying and painful, but we were able to just kind of do what we needed to figure it out. We could sit and we could wait.
Exactly.
We could go get food. We could be on our phones. Like, it was okay because we didn't have our kid.
Exactly. I just saw in the Facebook memories, that option that you have, I saw a post that I posted in like 2008 griping about waiting for a flight that got delayed or canceled and we had to go on another flight. And I'm looking back thinking, what was I complaining about? It was just you and your girlfriend. You had no kids.
You silly fool.
You can just do whatever you want. And so, now when you're without the kid and something like that happens, something that used to be an inconvenience, you're like, well, okay, I got nowhere to be.
Oh, we would have died if we had our kid with. I don't know what we would have done. We probably would have physically like given up. At that point, and just been like, we just don't want to do this anymore. But yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. But that was just like, it was incredible that like something that would have been such an annoyance before is just like, well, at least we don't have our kid.
Exactly. Yeah,
so
you have more to be thankful for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that first road trip that we took, it was the crash course. You figure out. You gotta do the math, like how many diapers do I need to pack, and it's never enough. It's never the correct amount of diapers.
Whatever number you end on, add another 12.
Exactly.
Just grab another fistful.
Yeah, figuring out a rental car, getting the right size that's going to fit all of your stuff, that's going to be safe for the kid, and then getting to the rental place and getting the wrong car and having to wait for the right car. Oh, it was a mess.
Oh no.
But then when we took the trip without the kid, those same little things would happen, those same little inconveniences, but they were just easier to handle.
Yeah.
And we found such joy in being able to go out for the night, just the two of us, and do whatever we wanted to. And, if we wanted to go out to dinner, but the place we made reservations for, the line was too long, we could go somewhere else.
Or you could wait.
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and you didn't have, a kid with you that was going to get impatient and was going to need, stimulation to kind of keep them occupied. So we really incredibly enjoyed that. And then the second trip to Disney World, we enjoyed it even more, because then as the kid gets older, you kind of, there's more that goes along to traveling with them. But, the flip side that, you can't ignore, because although you are happy to take the trip and be just an adult again, just a married couple again, or what have you, is there is some, I think, separation anxiety that goes along with it. It's sometimes it's heavier, sometimes it's lighter. I think sometimes it's harder the first couple of times you do it, and then the more you do it, the more you get used to it. But there definitely was a lot of that, because you worry, are we doing the irresponsible thing? Leaving our kid? Should we be forming memories with them, instead of just dropping them off, not realizing that if you're leaving them with a trusted family member, they're going to be making memories. I have many fond memories of staying with my grandmother growing up as a kid, because my mom would work during the day. So during the summer, I would stay with her, and I would just run around the house and have fun with my brother. But that might have been going through my mom's head, at the same time, like, here I am working without my kid. Should I be home with him instead? So that was, one anxiety that we felt. And then, are they going to be cared for in the same way that we would care for them? That's something you think about, not realizing that if you're living in with a grandparent, they've raised a couple of kids successfully. They know what they're doing.
They've done the job.
They may not do it exactly the same way that you do it, but it's only for a few days. It's not going to ruin your child's life to do things a little bit differently for a few days and then go back to the normal routine when you get back. Then you have to worry about Murphy's Law. Like, the worst is always going to happen. Like the first time that we traveled without David, he did get sick while we were gone, and then continued to be sick when we got back. But those things happen, and you just address them, and you just have to let go of the fear that, oh my God, what's going to happen? We have no control. We're away from the situation. It's going to be fine. Some things are going to happen. They may get some cuts and bruises, falling down around the house, but they're going to survive. But that anxiety, I think, happened to us. Did you guys feel any of that when you went to Boston?
For sure, and I'm glad you brought it up, just because I think the whole point here isn't just to point out the obvious that traveling is fun, because of course it is. Yeah. And you probably could have guessed that without us telling you, but it's more that it's okay to do that, is what I feel very strongly about at this point, because it was agonizing to just debate whether we should even do this. Yeah. And we put ourselves through a lot of stress about if it was the right thing to do for all those reasons that you were talking about. Like, are we selfish? Yeah. Shouldn't we be doing things with our kid? Blah, blah, blah. And then you have to, like, counterpoint, like, oh, he's too young, he won't remember, blah, blah, blah. And then, I really liked the point you made about, getting time with other people for your kid. It's very important. And, like, our son was with his grandparents as well, and they loved it. They were so happy to have, extended time with him over multiple days and just be able to play with him the whole time. Like, my mom, his grandmother, was home the whole day with him on one of the days that would have normally been like a work day, just like playing with him the whole time. She could have taken him to daycare. She didn't want to. And she just wanted to spend the whole day with him and have fun. And it's just like something that we don't think about because it's not us. Yeah. And like, we drop the kid off and we're like, whatever you want to do is on you, man. I'm getting out of here. We don't think about it, but it's such a nice thing. Yeah. To be able to have those opportunities for other people as well, to get time with your kid. And I would say that definitely when we were away, we didn't think about it as much. We didn't worry about it as much as you might fear. Yeah. So I also want to, set you that it's going to be okay. You will think about them, but you won't maybe have a crushing panic attack about it, probably. Exactly. Because you'll be enjoying yourself more than anything. Yeah, I think most of that fear is in the beginning. It's before you actually get on the plane, before you actually leave them. And then once you get there, because I think that's also part of it. Like, not only are you afraid of leaving them behind, but you're afraid of the fear. Like, you're worried, like, am I going to be so preoccupied missing my kid that I don't enjoy the trip? I think, or am I going to forget about my kid and like feel like a terrible parent? Yeah, exactly. But no, like, neither of those things happen. Once you get going on the trip, you do remember to check in every day and see how things are going, but you aren't so paralyzed with
the regret and the fear and the anxiety and things going wrong, you are able to let go and enjoy. This conversation is reminding me of one of the first episodes we did back when our kids were very small last year. We talked about getting out of the house for the first time without the kids, whether they were with a babysitter or the
Seemed
grandparents.
like a big
or what.
milestone compared to now traveling without kids.
I know. Seems so far away, but I remember you talking about you and Austin, like, getting in the car in the driveway and then not even being able to leave the driveway without almost breaking down in tears. Like,
we did.
Oh my God, we're like away from the kid for the first time. This is so weird.
Yeah. The first date lasted 30 minutes.
Yeah.
After we, the first time we left our son with somebody else. And that 30 minutes included trip time back and forth from the restaurant and eating.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I remember getting out of the house for the first time without David, me and Ashley. I think we went and saw, maybe we saw a movie, and maybe we saw 2 movies in the same weekend because we had one of our moms was in the house watching the kid for us that weekend. So he was, 10 minutes away. We went out and saw, I think, Deadpool, then we went back the next day and saw the new Thor. But it's hard that first time, and then every consecutive time it gets easier. So to contrast this conversation we're having about traveling without the kids, I wanted to pull up a list that I found on HuffPost.com, the Huffington Post. 45 hilarious tweets about traveling with kids. I think these are things that...
Number 1, 30 minutes later. Number 20. Let's...
Yeah, we'll skim through these.
We'll pick a few. Yeah,
exactly. But this first one is, I think, summarizes traveling with family entirely. It's traveling with kids is just yelling, "Stop that, or I'm taking you home," in a different city.
Yep, because the thread is empty.
Exactly. And then this one's great about getting on a plane with kids, which we both experience now. My kids are giving all the people on this plane a hard lesson in birth control right now.
Hey-o.
It does make a great deterrent. And, you do see like those parents leaning over to their teenage kids, pointing at the baby, being like, just know that's what's in store for you. Be safe out there.
Promiscuous teenager.
Right?
What are they implying about their kids? Oh, my God.
I don't know. I like this one. 10 reasons why traveling with kids is great. Number 1, and that's just the end of the tweet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God. And okay, so I'm gonna end it on this one, and then I'm gonna link the rest of these in the show notes. Travel tip: before boarding a plane with kids, show them the first episode of Lost and tell them it was caused by a toddler whining. That's fun for me, especially because I'm a Lost nerd. I was a big fan of that show. But I'm going to link this in the show notes. We'll also post it to our Facebook page. A lot to laugh along with and relate to. And I think that's probably a good place to end this episode. We'll make it nice and short and sweet. Brandon, between this week and next week, if our listeners want to reach out to us, where can they find us?
Yeah, come hang out with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. Please give us a like or a follow there. You can connect to us directly, dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com, and then you can check out this and every episode every week, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah, and while you're at it, don't forget to join our group, Dadsplaining, a fatherhood group, and be sure to follow us along on Facebook, where you can watch the Facebook Live. It's usually Wednesday mornings when we record our episodes, and we stream them live on Facebook, and you can join in the conversation, like this comment we got from our listener, Karina, who was following along with today's episode and said that her son is 6 years old now, and she has yet to go anywhere kid-free. And 6 years without a trip without the kid. Karina, we feel for you here at Dadsplaining, and we hope that you get that experience soon, because really it is worthwhile. And if you get the opportunity, we highly recommend it. But it is what it is. Parenting, you deal like you play with the cards that you're dealt. And sometimes it is just not in the cards. And, we get it. We talk about having fun, but if you can't do it, just soldier on. Is that the expression?
Yeah, soldier on and ignore us and just be like, oh, those guys with their nice setup with the family and everything local. I mean, not everyone gets it. We understand. But yeah, props to you, Karina.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And, you could find ways to have fun at home, if you can drop the kids off with the sitter for the night and just have a little staycation. Yeah. So, Brandon, what are we going to talk about next week?
So next week, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to check back in on health and just how we're doing as a couple of dads and just what we need to be thinking about. It just so happens both of us have recently had physicals. We'll spare you all the gross details. No, I'm just kidding. But we will just check in, on our grand plans of staying in shape and how we have failed miserably.
That's right. So until next time, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And hey, Brandon, 2 windmills went out on a date. One said to the other, "What type of music do you like?" What did they answer?
I like wind music.
He said, "I'm a huge metal fan."
Okay, yeah, now I get
These jokes aren't going to get any better, guys. I'm sorry.
That was good.
All right, we'll see you next time.